Well, hi, everybody. Wonderful to be with you again. And we want to continue our series here about how to lose weight and how to keep it off.
Yeah, that's the important thing for all of us.
Yeah. And how we started by explaining that in our experience, the way to lose weight and keep it off is, first of all, just get healthy. And our formula is whole food plant-based. Give the body high nutrient dense food so it has everything it needs to do what it's designed to do. Right. Yeah, to really be healthy, energized, vital, clear. And that's been our experience for quite a few decades now. So we give our bodies what they need and they function really well. And a healthy body doesn't carry excess weight. So if we have excess weight, that goes, but the trick is keeping it off. And what we talked about last week was how we can get hijacked. Our mind can come in and get all thinking about, I've got to have the cookie, I've got to have the ice cream. And we're just compelled to have foods that are not healthy and put the excess weight on and create health conditions. So this week we want to take it a little further to see what is it that creates those cravings.
Yeah.
How is it that our mind is telling us we need a cookie to be okay right now?
I think the main thing is we have thoughts that aren't true, actually, that may demean us or make us feel like we're not enough. And we want something to alleviate that tension. And we'll reach for food. Some people reach for other substances, but it's the same dynamic.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is that something occurs in our lives and we interpret that to mean something about who we are.
Yeah.
I'm not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can tell you a story about that.
Good.
Just this morning, I was planning, what should we talk about on this blog? And so I watched last week's in order to kind of bring it together from that. And I did not like the way I performed in the blog last week. And instantly, my mood went down, my mind got a little foggy. I couldn't think about what we would talk about this week. I felt low and I got hungry. Or I felt hungry. I just had breakfast, so I probably wasn't hungry. But there was that whole cycle right in front of me. It was like, oh, something happens. I watched the blog and I interpreted a certain way. I'm not enough. I didn't do a very good job. Maybe I shouldn't be in this business. and my mood sinks. And because I have these associations with food that make me feel good. What's a feel-good food? Because there's so many associations with food and having fun and celebration and reward and all that, that the mind is there really doing the best it can to solve the problem of a low mood. And so we think about food. But fortunately, I've been around this understanding long enough to see what was going on. It's like, probably don't need food right now. And what really helped me kind of move forward through that is seeing that it's my thinking, seeing that it's my interpretation of how I performed on the blog.
Yeah, and knowing Bill as well as I do, he's had a lifelong habit of being self-critical. So those kinds of thoughts have been very common for you, yeah? And all it is thinking. In the moment, he's telling himself something that isn't true about who he is, and down comes the mood. Then there's the desire for relief. How am I going to feel better? And we'll reach for something like food to try to solve that because we've created also that habit.
Yeah, so whenever I'm feeling that tension and pressure to have something to eat to feel better, it's kind of like I'm standing at a crossroads and I can use the food to try and shift my mood, which is a short-term solution. I do feel better, but it can create problems down that road of excess weight or a health condition. Or there's this other road, which is to recognize, oh, this is just my thinking. And whenever we're feeling a negative emotion or pressure or anxiety, that kind of thing, that feeling is our wisdom or kind of our inner guidance telling us that we're believing something that isn't true about who we really are or how life really works. Because like I say, a few minutes before I watched that blog, everything was fine. Then I watched the blog and my thinking interpreted that situation in a way that I diminished myself. When nothing really changed, I wasn't any more or less than I was a few minutes before, but my feelings changed. So that's what we wanted to look at today is, where do our feelings come from? And those negative feelings, the pressure, the anxiety, the overwhelm that sometimes has us reaching for food when we're not hungry, is basically we're telling ourselves something, we're believing something, we're interpreting something about ourselves that isn't true. So what do?
Well, what I do is I recognize now, because I've watched this cycle happen, that it's just a thought or a feeling that's going to move on by if I don't give it anything. If I don't make anything of it, it moves really quite quickly. Or I'll sit for a moment and get quiet, let this mind settle down. And then I ask myself, now, do I really want to eat something? And the answer is no, have a glass of water.
Yeah, so I think that's it. In a way, what helps me get down the road that eliminates that desire to have something to eat is really just questioning whether or not what I'm thinking is true. And really questioning, am I inadequate? Is the way that I did the blog really saying something about who I am?
Yeah.
And there may be a lot of skills I can develop in doing a better blog, but that isn't the problem. The problem is believing I'm not enough.
That's it.
That's the stuff that feels so bad.
Yeah.
And really everything in me wants to change, feeling bad in that way, being self-critical. So that's what we would suggest this week. If you find yourself reaching for food out of tension, anxiety, overwhelm, maybe just pause for a moment. Is what I'm feeling coming from some sense of not being enough?
Or something else I'm telling myself that isn't true about me, about who I am, because that's so untrue about you.
Yeah, so I think that's the big question this week. Is it true?
Yeah, and what you can do is just begin to notice what your thinking is when you're in these low moods and want to reach for food. And hold it loosely, do nothing with it, and it'll move on by. Notice that cycle happen, because that's where freedom is, and that's where the habits start to dissolve of reaching for food when we're not hungry. Is having just seen, oh, I'm lost in thought. Okay. Go on about doing whatever I want to in my life, and the thought just floats on by.
That's kind of interesting too, is what I've been noticing the last few days, is how when I get engaged in life, I'm usually not thinking so much about it. So just see the next thing to do and do it. And that lots of times can help shift me out of all that thinking about the food.
Yeah. Now, what's the recipe?
Yeah, what's the recipe? You want to share your garlic scapes?
Yeah, I made a new oil-free garlic scape pesto for pasta. I use it on pasta. It's great on grain too. But pesto generally has a half a cup at least of oil in it. And this is so delicious and oil-free. So check it out, give it a try and see what you think.
Yeah, I tried it after she made it yesterday, and it reminded me of a really delicious chutney. So it could be used just as a little side taste too on a bowl or something like that.
Yeah, like in a bitter bowl, it would be
Yeah,
great
it
as
is.
a side.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye.